Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. Welcome, everyone. Every second Tuesday, every second Friday, and every third Monday, which is today, we get to chat with members of the International Food, Wine, and Travel Writers Association. And today we are going to be chatting with Sarah Gilliland, and she is based in Birmingham, Alabama, beautiful and historic Birmingham, Alabama. And she specializes in writing about family travel. In fact, not only is she a travel writer, but she's also an author. She wrote the book Perfect Day, Alabama, and that was published late last year. So a book to go and get. And so very excited to have you on the show. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk all things travel.
And family. And this is the thing, I know you do family and you love theme parks and road trips. And we haven't really focused on theme parks for a while. And I think it's something to really think about when we look at, summer road tripping, which I think is increasing. I think families, we need to get more station wagons.
Absolutely. I mean, we drive our minivan all over the country, so I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a way that, whether you're going to a historic site or a national park or a theme park, you're doing fun, you're doing family unity. Having something to do together is a way to help a family stay together, I think, and also informs and educates,
Absolutely. And it's a more affordable way to travel around the country at this point. I have 3 children. So as our family of 5 has grown over the years, it has become a lot more expensive to take everyone places. My oldest kids are teenagers, so they count as adults in a lot of admission fees and things like that. And obviously for flying, you have to pay for everyone at this point because my youngest is 5. So road tripping just allows us to make memories on the way to the destination and at the destination. And we can control when we leave and when we get there, which is really nice.
Yeah. And sometimes when you're on the road, you have to do those quick pullovers and, you can handle your food a little bit better too, that way,
Yes,
for
absolutely.
kids. Yeah, that's a thing too. So yeah, I was going to tell everybody to go to your website too. I love it. It's ontheroadwithsarah.com. Now I know we're going to talk theme parks, everyone. It's going to be fun. Let's, put our Mickey Mouse hats on. But I know you do a lot of travel in the country and you have some great sections on travel tips. But you also cover cruises. So do you take your entire family on a cruise? I mean, it seems like some of the cruise ships have become real family friendly as well.
Yes, we definitely take our family on cruises. My husband and I actually just did an Alaska cruise last year for our 15th anniversary. So that was the first time we had been on a Just Us cruise in a couple of years. But typically we do take our family. We've been on Royal Caribbean, and we've actually brought Multigen family with us. We've taken grandparents on Disney cruises with us. And that is actually really fun because when the kids are not in the kids club, grandparents are watching them and mom and dad get some alone time to enjoy the ship.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's like, hey, we're going to go have a cocktail on the deck. Leave us alone.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
cool.
Exactly.
Well, and it's fun because I think grandparents love to be with their grandbabies. They do. And it's like, they have those special moments, and it's a big part for kids to be able to have those, those moments as well. I love the multi-generational travel now. And I think, like theme parks, cruise ships, attractions, everyone's starting to understand that has become a big part of travel for families, especially because so many families live in different places across the country or around the world. So I think this is the other part of it, right? It's getting together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the coming into one place, and then also the grandparents don't have to think up things to entertain the children with. When you're at a theme park, you just, go with them as they say, oh, we want to go do this thing, we want to go do that thing, and the grandparents can just they don't even have to ride anything, but they can just go and experience the joy of the grandkids. And honestly, it's the same on cruise ships. And what I particularly love about taking my family on a cruise ship is that my teenagers I can be a little more free with and say, okay, just meet us back at the dining room at dinner. And I don't know where they are, but I know they're on the ship and they haven't left. And that's kind of fun because they feel a little sense of independence, but I feel safe letting them be independent.
That is cool. It's like it's a big house in a community.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
But you started traveling as a kid too, right? So
I did.
that started, that's same for me. I think I have to thank my mom for that, is like, it's like, hey, we're moving to this country. All right, well, let's go check that out, And I think once you get that in your blood, it never leaves you, but that keeps your mind open to learning things. It's fun to go to school, but I think when you can have reality as well, it's a good thing for kids.
And my children already know that they will never have the perfect attendance award at school because we take advantage of the absences that we are allowed to have so that they can explore the world around them. And like you said, it broadens your horizons and it allows you to see, even if you don't leave the country all the time. Like my kids have been to the Caribbean and Mexico, but we have not ventured to Europe yet, just because we have the 5-year-old and we kind of would like for him to be a little bit older so that he can really appreciate us going all
Mm.
the way to Europe. But they have seen different parts of the country and they've met different types of people, different cultures. Thankfully, our United States is so diverse that you can really experience lots of other cultures without ever leaving the United States. I just think that's invaluable learning. As much as I appreciate school and I have friends that are teachers, so I don't want anyone to hear me say that school is not worth it. It
No,
is, but
yeah, it is.
I definitely think that taking advantage of the absences that your district allows you to be absent is a good thing because there is a lot to learn hands on and just being present in different ways when you're traveling that you don't get to learn in a classroom.
Yeah, I agree. It's like it's supplemental learning, right? And that's why
Yeah.
schools want to do, as many day trips and outings. It's great for the kids to go to a nature center or, that kind of thing. And I know, so depending on where you are in the country, I mean, sometimes those things go away and aren't as easy to get. So when parents are able to do that with their kids, it's even better. But it's also family time. We get so busy in our worlds that sometimes we forget the importance of unity through fun. It shouldn't always
Hmm.
be, did you get a grade A?
Right.
What didn't you do at school today that I know? What did you do that I need to know? Sometimes it's fun just to go out there and you get to learn. And I think for kids, when you're traveling, you can see where interests start to pop up for kids.
Right. Exactly. And I love to call it sneaky learning because we've been
Ooh,
taking our kids to theme parks for pretty much their entire life. And my kids have really grown fond of Epcot, which normally you wouldn't think Epcot's a kid's favorite park. It's got to be Magic Kingdom with all the rides. But we love talking to the people that are employed by Disney that work in the different countries because they do come from those countries. So they are interacting authentically with someone from China or someone from France. And where else can you get that? And there's a little bit of the Disney magic there, and there's, Mickey and all that kind of stuff. But it's really the people that make the difference for us when it comes to the theme parks. And there's just lots of opportunities for them to learn, words in a different language or experience different foods. And they really have a lot of fond memories of speaking to the people in the different countries and learning different things from them. And they don't really think about the fact that they are learning. But I mean, if luckily we're in a very, I won't say forgiving district, but they are very gracious about letting people be absent for various things, as long as you don't take too advantage of the number of days you can be absent. But I have heard from other friends who live in different areas that like sometimes they have to like write about what they did when they came back to justify it, which that's a whole nother podcast about how I think that's a little ridiculous. However, I do feel like my kids probably could write an essay about all the things that they've learned while they are at a theme park. And especially now that they're older, we have actually started doing some money management with them. We give them a budget and they decide what they want to spend it on. And they have to learn sometimes the hard way that if they spend all their money on souvenirs, they're not really going to have anything to eat. Luckily,
okay.
mom and dad are there to, usually rescue them for that. We have a family dinner, but a lot of times they give up their snacks because they want to buy things, or vice versa, they want to try all the snacks and so then they don't have any money for souvenirs. So that's people don't think that that's learning, but
Hmm.
I think that's just a part of life. That's just one of the ways you learn how to be an adult is like, okay, what are you going to spend your money on? You really need to think about this because if you run out of money, you're out of money.
Yeah, and you can't, the rescue with the dinner is great, right?
Hmm.
But you can't, and you have to kind of hold that strong. You can't go,
Hmm.
okay, here, yeah, I was raised like if you wanted something, like I remember wanting a guitar and I was probably about 9 or 10 at the time, really wanted a guitar. So, my mom, Nancy, she was like, oh, you want a guitar? Well, then I will pay for half of it. When you raise the other half, I will match it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, well, how am I going to raise it? She was like, well, I need chores done and I need this, I need that done. And boy, like, I was like, well, how fast can I do it? And she's like, well, you got to pace yourself a little, cause I'm like, hey, I'll work overtime. Do we get overtime?
Right.
And, but it taught me. And also because you're putting the effort in how like, oh, I'm putting effort on top of this. And, is this really where I want my sweat equity to go?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
Well, and
and I
it
did
feels
get the
so
guitar.
good
I
to
did.
earn that, and then the prize at the end, whatever, for your case it was a guitar, whatever it is, when you
Yeah.
finally get it, you're like, wow, I earned this.
Yes. You thought about it. I learned how to do a savings account and everything over that.
Mm-hmm.
I think budgeting is huge because families go through budgeting issues too.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
world changes all the time. You may think, oh, we're all great. And then all of a sudden, oh, maybe not, just like our
Right.
stock market these days. Let's not go there. So, but that's something kids should learn. I think sometimes they get sheltered from the real life, and that's not
Right.
necessarily a good thing. I mean, it could, you don't want them to have, like fear, but it's good for them to understand that the money doesn't grow on trees. Let's put it that
That's
way.
right. The old adage. And
I
I used to
know.
roll my eyes so hard at my parents when they said stuff like that. And now I'm saying it to my kids and I'm like, wow, it just goes around.
Hey, listen,
That's a
I'm in
phrase
my,
that sticks.
I'm in that middle age zone, and my mom still has to tell me that, and she does the books for a reason, but we're a team on that. But I love this learning part of it because theme parks sometimes I think get a bad rap on that. And
Mm-hmm.
what I have seen, and I have not done like the Disneylands like you, I have done Epcot and Universal Studios in Orlando. And this was about 30 years ago. And I have to tell you, Epcot was really cool. And we didn't even get to all the science stuff because we were too busy going from country to country. And you could hear the music, you could taste the food, just like you're saying. And they had attractions built that really taught you about that. It's like when you
Mm-hmm.
went to Norway, they had this giant troll. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. When we went to Morocco, they had a Moroccan restaurant and Moroccan dancers. And I was like, oh, the music. And I was just like, this is fun. This was like, going on a cruise without going on a cruise.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of people miss about theme parks is the ability to interact with different cultures and like different foods and different activities that you would normally have to pay thousands of dollars to fly across the world to experience, and you can
Mm.
experience it right here at home without having to get a passport.
Well, yeah, and you're talking about the money too. It can't like the more kids you have, the more it can cost, right? Do you have
Mm-hmm.
any tips on saving money going to attractions and these theme parks?
Right. Yeah. So it really depends on which one you're going to. I definitely think if you are a theme park novice, you probably should not start with Disney or Universal just because they are massive and overwhelming. Maybe consider going to a local or a regional theme park. We are just about 4 hours from Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and we
Cool.
love going to that park. It is extremely affordable for our family because partially because we can drive there, but also the ticket prices are just great and they offer lots of cool things like they have a pre-K pass for any kid that's ages 4 or 5. You can go all year long for free. After they offer military discounts, they offer first responder discounts. Sometimes they have bring a friend days where if you know somebody who's a pass holder at Dollywood, they can get you in for free. So I recommend, going to your local, if you've got a good Six Flags nearby or a Cedar Fair or Carowinds in North Carolina, any of those places would be a good place to start to get your proverbial theme park feet wet, so to speak, because it's a lot of navigating lines and, like you said, budgeting for food and budgeting for parking if there is parking and that sort of thing. But then when it comes to the bigger theme parks like Disney or Universal, they offer discounts, but people don't, it's not as obvious that their discounts are available unless you know where to look for them. I highly recommend working with a travel agent. A lot of those agents can know about discounts and things like that before the general public, and they They are usually paid commission by Disney or Universal, so it doesn't cost you anything extra to use them, and they will help you find those discounts. If you've got military family members, first responder family members, and you guys are planning like a family reunion type trip, take advantage of those discounts. And also, I tend to find that at least in 2025, staying on property at the different places, whether it's Universal or Disney, comes with several perks that are really beneficial in terms of saving money and time. Because to me, especially in Orlando, maybe not so much at Disneyland, because it's basically in the middle of Anaheim and you don't have to stay at one of they only have 3 hotels out there. While as nice as it is, excuse me, to stay at one of those cool hotels and be kind of in the Disney bubble, so to speak, you can really stay at a more affordable location off of the property out there. But in Orlando, everything is so spread out. Walt Disney was a genius and bought up tons of land there. So there is just so much to do and see, and everything is very spread out, and it takes quite a bit to get from one area to another. And so if you're not staying at a Disney hotel or even at a Universal hotel, you have to think about the drive time to get somewhere. If you flew down there, you'll have to get an Uber, rent a car, and drive yourself to the parks. And that's really where I see a lot of people wasting a lot of their money, is doing all of these things to finally get to the park, when if they would have just maybe splurged a little bit on where they were staying, they could have gotten there a lot quicker. Usually
Less
when you
drama.
book, yes, less drama, less getting lost, trying to figure out where to park, and are we at the right hotel, resort, theme park, whichever. But also when you buy a package, which is usually theme park tickets and a hotel together, something is discounted in there. Disney is really well known for, if you pay full price for their theme park tickets and their hotel room, you get the dining plan for free. So you can eat for free. Sometimes
Wow.
they offer promotions for kids that are under their kids' age, I believe is 3 to 9. And then if you're 10 plus, you're an adult, which I could really go on and on about how I feel like that's wrong. But anyways, so from 3 to 9, sometimes they offer like half off of kids tickets, or, free dining plan just for the kids in your group if you pay for the adults, that sort of thing. So there's lots of ways to save money on going to a theme park. You do not have to pay rack room rates, or full price theme park tickets. But I think a lot of people just don't want to put in the effort to look for those discounts. You really do they don't make it easy to find them, which I think is unfortunate, because like I was saying earlier about Dollywood, they make it very obvious, who they're honoring this time. Like if it's first responders or veterans or whatever it is, it's very obvious that this is where you go to purchase those kinds of tickets. And hey, if you're a pass holder, you can bring your friend for free on this date. Like it's not hidden. And I feel like sometimes the bigger theme park corporations make you work for your discount. And some people just don't want to do that. And I think that's unfortunate, because you can really save some money if you know where to look.
I agree. I know that we've interviewed City Pass before for people going
I love City Pass.
Okay, and they're coming on the show next month, everyone, on our
Right.
IFWTWA Food, Wine, and Travel. They've been on our shows over the years, and I think that has got to save families money, because you can, if you're going like to Birmingham or Atlanta or something like that, you can go to the Natural History Museum, all those kinds of things. So look for those kind of programs, right, to save money. I mean, you obviously like it. You've used it.
Absolutely. I used City Pass in New York recently, and it was fantastic. We were able to see the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. We were able to go to Top of the Rock, and there was one more thing that we did. What did we do?
Cool.
I think we went to something in Rockefeller Center. But anyway, each of those individually, it probably would have cost us over $200. And I believe it was less than that. It was like 130 something for
Wow.
us to get into all 3 of those attractions. It was really great.
No, that helps. And it puts it towards the meals, or, lodging or gas or whatever you're doing. I mean, I was thinking that for even Southern California, when people do all those theme parks, that's got to help.
Yes.
I
And
mean,
they actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, and if it's not City Pass, I know Southern California is really great about offering, they want people to go all over Southern California, not just in Anaheim where Disneyland is. So they offer, hey, if you're going to be in the area, you can get into the San Diego Zoo for half off, or you can go to the aquarium for half off.
Legoland.
Right, Legoland, the Six Flags Magic Mountain that's there. There's lots of different ways that you can use programs like City Pass or other one of the things that I love, this is kind of not theme park related, but could still be helpful, and it's in the realm of family travel, is when we're members of our zoo at home or our science center, a lot of the ones that are in the same program across the country offer reciprocal admission or at least half off. And
Yeah.
that is a huge savings, especially when you're in a town. Maybe you're somewhere. Maybe you're in California and you're thinking, oh, we're going to spend a day at the beach, but it rains, and you're like, oh shoot, what am I going to do now? I don't want to be trapped in this hotel room with my children. Oh, let's go to the aquarium because we can get in for free. Like
Mm.
it's a really important thing that you need to look at as far as membership. They're all different. AZA is one of them, and the Science Center one, I can't remember what it's called, but if you look into it, you can see which programs participate. And free is great, but half off is great too. Anything less than full price is my favorite.
Now, do you have any tips in regards to going because of the different ages? And then if we're talking multi-generational, like grandparents
Hmm.
going, maybe they don't want to walk all of Walt Disney World, like
Hmm.
Disneyland all day long. So how do you balance like this in general? Let's go here. How do you balance everybody's needs when you go to like a giant theme park? I don't care
Hmm.
which one it is, right? I'm just saying a giant theme park, everyone has limitations. Sometimes the grandparents and the little kids get to be in the same limitation zone. I'm not being,
Right.
but it's just
Exactly.
about like a kid is not going to, a little kid is not going to walk all of it. And neither is your grandparent, their grandparents.
Right. Exactly.
So that's not a negative, but like balancing it all and then balancing that and then looking at the same balance being, hey, Johnny wants to run over here if they're in the zoo and I want to go play with the orangutans, but Sally wants to go play with the zebras. And I think in a way that's a good thing for people, like for families and kids to work with each other to have the patience to do what each person wants to
Hmm.
do. Does that
Right.
make, I'm not a parent. I'm trying. I take care of
No,
animals. Animals are a lot
you're making
easier than
complete
humans.
sense. We have a lot of those conversations. Fortunately, I have teenagers and a 5-year-old, so the age gap is pretty large, which is sometimes inconvenient, but most of the time the teenagers are pretty gracious with their brother. They will do things with him and with us as a family for a while, and then usually at some point during the day they're like, "Can we go off and do our own thing? Is that okay?" And they have phones so that we can keep up with them, but I also feel pretty safe in a theme park that as long as they don't leave the theme park, which usually I know at Disney, I won't say for other theme parks because I don't know for sure, but I know at Disney, they're very conscious of watching people leave, and they are trained to look for kids that are in distress or maybe kids that are wandering by themselves. So they never really let anyone leave that looks like it may be a problem. So I feel pretty safe letting my 14-year-olds run around the theme park and then just meet us for dinner. The grandparents, they're a little bit more tricky to figure out because, like you said, they don't always want to walk everywhere. They get tired after a while. We've started convincing some of them to use mobility aids, and that helps. That helps them hang out a little bit longer because they don't have to walk everywhere. But we just take a lot of breaks, and I think that works well, like you said, for the 5-year-old, because he's kind of in the same boat sometimes as his grandparents. His little legs get tired after a while, and a lot of times he just wants to play. And we're very fortunate that we have been to Disney and Universal and really Dollywood now several times, and we know where the fun places are that we can all kind of sit and take a break. Dollywood has a great indoor attraction called Hidden Hollow, and that is just, it's a completely indoor, almost like a McDonald's play place used to be.
Cool.
But it's great because he is entertained and everyone else gets to just sit and enjoy the air conditioning, which is nice when it's
And
very
have a
hot.
conversation. And this is
That's
the other
right.
thing. I think this kind of, you're traveling, you're doing, all these different experiences, and it gives you something to talk about that's not the typical conversation at home about your grades or what happened at the sports, or you know what I mean? It just gives everyone an interrupt from regular life that has to be
Yes.
done. And that's again having those conversations where you find out who has an interest in what. And that
Hmm.
sometimes can, I mean, my guitar took me to be in a band and do music down, as an adult. So it's interesting what our childhood can lead to,
Right.
in life. And that's the fun part of it. Also with the grandparents, do you see them? I mean, even you as adults, right? As parents, don't you all kind of also enjoy just not being an adult for a day and having fun like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of the reason why theme parks have an appeal to us, because there's always a little kid inside of you that just wants to scream at the top of their lungs for joy because you're having fun on a ride, or just experience something that maybe you haven't experienced before. My husband and I were very fortunate to be able to go to Epic Universe before it opened to the public because we're annual pass holders. And I always get questions like, well, why aren't you guys going somewhere like Napa Valley or somewhere, romantic or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, we do those things too. We went on an Alaskan cruise last year for our anniversary, but we love theme parks because we love escaping reality just for a little while. And we love, the adrenaline rush you get when you're riding a roller coaster. We love going to the Super Nintendo world and pretending like we're in the middle of the video game. And it's just really fun. It's just joyful, and I don't know, I just love it. And I think it brings out the little kid inside of all of us, and it allows everyone to just let go of expectations for a little while and let
Mm.
go of, like you said, the adult part of life, like the mortgages and the bills and the, 9
Ew.
to 5 clockwork kind of thing. Yeah. You just go, and we don't usually go to theme parks with a hard and fast plan. We kind of know things we want to do when we go, but we just, wherever the wind takes us, we're like, oh, hey, look, they're doing a street performance. Let's stop and watch it.
Yeah, nice.
Very much a stop and smell the roses kind of thing. Oh, hey, look, there's a character over there. I wonder what they're doing. Let's go see what that's about. Ooh, they have a new snack. I wanna try it. Let's try this. I have gotten my kids to try more interesting and weird things at theme parks, but just because we're in the moment, than I ever would of putting it on their plate and going, "Okay, this is what we're having for dinner. Ew, I don't want this."
That's hysterical.
At a theme park, they're like, "Oh yeah, let's try it." And then, "I don't really like that, Mom." Well, hey, but you tried it. I'm glad you tried it.
Yeah, so everything's an adventure.
Yes, yes. And it's a safe place to be adventurous, because there's no one's going to get mad at you or upset or disappointed that you didn't like something. Like, we're just trying things, and we're learning things about each other, we're learning things about ourselves, and we're just doing it together, which is really fun. It reminds me of, like, oh yeah, this is why we had kids. I really like
Yeah.
my kids.
Yeah,
I do.
exactly. Yeah, because it's nice to take the mom hat off for a little bit, even though you're still
Yes.
being mom. You're just having the fun. Yeah, you're enjoying each other, and it goes by quickly, doesn't it?
Yes, like, I can't believe I'm a mother of 14-year-olds. Like, that just is, I feel like they were just born.
That's wild. I know. And then
Yeah.
you have like a 5-year-old. It's like, ooh,
Yes.
but it's going to go by so quickly in those moments. And now I think too, doing a lot of theme parks, have you seen them change? I mean,
Mhm.
it's kind of like, I look at theme parks as being like multi-generational Vegas, like you watch
Yes.
Vegas go from only coins and pennies, other than the table games or whatever, to now like all tickets versus touching the coins and hearing the ding, 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 which they've
Right.
replicated the ding, 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 obviously, but it's
Mhm.
still not the same. It's just not the same. But once in a while, you'll find like they have like a relic section of a casino.
And those are my
I'm saying this
favorite.
because we used to print when we were back in our print days. We did a lot in Vegas. We printed in Las Vegas, and we ended up sitting in casinos because you couldn't really go and do anything because you were on call all the time. So we weren't spending big money on gambling, but we'd play penny machines, and we were actually more about the cartoons. So we were kind of treating Vegas like a theme park for adults, I suppose. And we were like, get the bonus round so we can watch the cartoons do things. That's how so I suppose they got us they got our money doing that because we're like, put more in. If we put more in, maybe it'll. Give us a game, like a thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, childish, but we watched how Vegas changed. And I think museums have changed so much with interactive exhibits where you can touch and people are talking to you. And I mean, the technology has gotten just amazing. And I know Disneyland has always been kind of a pioneer on that kind of thing, right? So have you seen that evolution in theme parks?
Oh, absolutely. I think, and if you were to talk to more people that are into theme parks the way I am, the theme park community, so to speak, you would get varying viewpoints on that because there's some people who really are disappointed with the way that things have changed over the years and oh, the original XYZ attraction is not there anymore. Walt Disney wouldn't have approved of this, that sort of thing. I think Walt Disney would have approved of the way things are going only because he really believed that Disneyland would never be completed as long as there was imagination left in the world. And I think they are very smartly leaning into their IPs, their intellectual properties, and drawing in fans that way that maybe normally would just dismiss Disneyland or Disney World as something for kids or something for people with kids. Whereas now they are like when they built Galaxy's Edge in both Disneyland and Disney World, that's a whole area that's dedicated to Star Wars. And I've been to both and I love Star Wars. So like the first time I went, I almost cried because I felt like I was on a movie set. It's just that immersive and
That's
that
cool.
much of an experience. And, people lament there's only 2 rides there, but I don't really care about the rides so much. I care about the immersive experience. There are stormtroopers that are walking around and sometimes you see Chewbacca walking around or R2D2 and there's shops that you can go in and foods that you can try and you can make your own lightsaber.
Yeah, it's interesting, that immersive experience that you're talking about. So you're like within a movie set, right? By doing it's like how people go to the Van Gogh experience.
Yes, it's exactly like that. And that's just what I love about theme parks is that all of them really are leaning more into immersive experiences, making you feel like you are not at a theme park anymore. Now you're on a planet that is in the Star Wars universe, or you are like when we go to Super Nintendo World at Epic Universe, you feel like you're in the game. There's just, you go down the way that it's situated, you go kind of up an escalator into the area, and then you go down some stairs to go into the rides and interactive experiences. So you're going down, and so you're lower, I guess, probably than ground level. And so you do feel like you are in the quote unquote Mushroom Kingdom. Or you go through another portal and you're in the Donkey Kong area and everything is larger than life above you. So you do feel like you are right in the middle of those experiences.
So this is really about imagination and attention to detail for how they do this, right? This is
Yes.
epic, the attention to detail. And I think for kids, it makes you believe that you can do anything.
Yes. Absolutely. And I love that especially for Epic Universe, it's so unique because it is really unlike other theme parks that I've been to. It's got 5 different areas, the 5th area really being what they call Celestial Park, which is the middle of the park. And it's got 2 attractions. It has a carousel and then this really amazing, like out of this world roller coaster. It's awesome. But then you go into what they call the different portals. And once you are in those portals, you are in that area. You can't really see any of the rest of the park. You can't see the land next to you. You can't see the hotel at the back of the park. So you are there. And like you were saying, the attention to detail is really what draws you in and keeps you there. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I grew up reading the books, seeing all the movies, going to the midnight releases, that sort of thing. So going to that new area that they have, it's called the Ministry of Magic, is incredible. It's another place where I was like, I feel like I'm on the set of a movie. I feel like I am in the Harry Potter universe and it's just really cool. I was just kind of circling around and just looking at everything and trying not to geek out. I just kept hitting my husband on the arm and I was like, look at this, look at this, look at that.
That's
That's
fun.
so cool.
No, that's cool. When we went to, when we were in Orlando and we did Epcot, we did Universal Studios and I loved it because they had Jaws. I mean, again, this is over 30 years ago. And I'd just come fresh out of South Africa and growing up in Africa. So this was a whole like American culture shock, right? At that time. And I think it was like 1920. Yeah. Anyway, we had a ball. I mean, it was my mom and I. And when we went to Universal, there was E.T. was one of the rides.
E.T. is still there.
my
Jaws is
gosh.
unfortunately not. I miss Jaws. That was a fun ride.
Jaws was cool, man. I was like, this is, and I stood in line. I'm like, no, we're playing this game because, hey, great white sharks were actually swam in the waters right where they were in some of the worst places. Like you really could lose your leg. And I used to play like, oh, let's just go out a little further. I don't know. It's just stupid teenager stuff, right? So then it was like, no, let's see the American version of Jaws. And I was like, holy cow, it made me think of like, what was I doing? Oh, this is too real, you know? But E.T., okay, so this is, I don't even want to tell anybody, but this is so true. So I saw E.T. as a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were living in England when we saw it, and it scared me. It freaked me out. I was little and everybody else loves E.T. How cute. I was scared. And I, for some reason, thought every time I took a bath, I thought his eyeballs were going to come up. Like I would look at the drain to see if his eyeballs would come up there. I don't have any, I don't know. I did grow up in Africa though, where sometimes there'd be a snake in there or something. So maybe that, I don't know if that had any connection, but I had this giant fear of E.T., but also curiosity about E.T., right? So this happens to me as a kid. And then we go, and I think I watched it again, like later, like I was, 19, and by then I'd seen it again, been fine. So we go on this ride and they take your names as you go in. And then we come out and like, I think we're on the ride and then he comes by and E.T. looks at you, does those big blinky eyes, and he's like, Lisa. And I burst out crying. Burst into tears. And my mom's looking at me like, what is this? It was just because E.T. does have that. I mean, I can't even imagine why I was scared of him. It makes no sense. But it did scare me.
It did when you were little.
And so my mom told me that she took me to Disneyland when I was really young. And I think we left this country when I was a year and a half and took me around and was all excited, took me to the teacups and It's a Small World after all thing or something. And we got home and she was all thrilled at herself taking me to this wonderful theme park. And I was so young and in a stroller. And she says, well, what did you see? I was like, I saw millions and millions of people's kneecaps kind of thing. Well, so that was a learning curve, but we had fun. I know we did. And I do remember It's a Small World. I don't know if she just always sang it to me or, but E.T., that was an emotional connection to, it's just the way his face was and that I don't know. It just got me back. It was embarrassing. I'm like, everybody's like, oh, how cute. And I'm like, wah. That was funny. It wasn't like a big wah, but you know what I mean? You just kind of
it caught you off guard.
Yeah, that's what you said. You also almost started crying at one of them. Like it does.
Yeah, for Star Wars, that we walk through a tunnel and you come out and you are in this immersive world, and it literally felt like I was in a Star Wars film. I was on a distant planet watching, the characters go by and hearing the sounds of planes going overhead. And it was just so detailed and so just beyond. I had seen the artist renderings. I had seen people who had already been post videos, but nothing compares to experiencing it yourself. And I tried to avoid social media as much as I could before I went to Epic Universe because I really wanted to experience it myself and not like already know what was happening. And the first time I went on the Harry Potter ride called Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry, again, it was a moment where I was a little tear jerky because there's a moment where you walk through this portal that they call the Metro Flu. So in Harry Potter, the universe, one of the ways they travel, other than flying on a broomstick or what have you, is by flu powder. It's this magical powder that they drop into the fireplace and they say where they want to go and it takes them there. So so nothing happens to you. It's just simulated. So you get up to the entrance of this quote unquote fireplace. And as you walk through, fog comes up behind you. And I got my husband to video it. It looks really cool because it looks like I disappeared. But then you just walk through to the other side and it does the same thing. It has this wall of smoke. And when you walk through, now you're in what's called the Ministry of Magic. And when I looked up, it looks exactly like the Ministry of Magic from the movie. And I got a little catch in my chest because I was
we're talking about verklempt moments.
Yes. It was just incredible. And then to go through the queue is the most detailed queue I have ever been in. They really thought of everything. We toured it before we rode it because the ride was, it was in technical rehearsal, so it would go down and up and various things. And there was a moment during the day where they were letting people just walk through the queue that weren't going to ride. And I'm glad I did that because I really took my time looking at all of the details. Sometimes when you're in line for a ride at a theme park, you're hot and tired and you're just ready to ride the ride. So you're not really paying attention to what's going on in the queue. But this queue was incredible. And also it was indoors, so it was air conditioned, which was really nice.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I really felt like I could take my time and just look at all the little details of things that they had brought out from the movies and the books that just made it feel like I was in the middle of the scene. And those sorts of moments happen to me a lot more than they don't. And so that's why when people ask me, why do you keep going back to theme parks? I'm like, I just love that feeling of like, I'm in the middle of the story. I like being in the middle of the story.
That's cool. Now I have to go to a theme park. I want to
Yes.
go and be in Magic Land. Well, it's fun. And I think we need that. I really believe our world needs to go back and have some fun. Everyone's arguing and fighting over stuff. Let's go have some fun. Go to a theme park, step into the world of imagination, because imagination is, something in, it's in our toolkit of life. Imagination can get you through everything in life. It's an escape, but it's also creative. And that's how, creativity is. Well, you're a travel writer and an author. It's important, to have those
Yes.
tools. No matter, I always say accountants need to have more creativity. I'm just saying, but it's, I don't care what you do in life. Creativity is going to be the most important thing, I think. That's just personally. Creativity is where you grow, and creativity is where you try new things. And even in medicine, you have to be creative on tools and how you help people. It's like, you have to problem solve, and also learn the fact of don't just keep saying no to something just because it didn't work somewhere else. Creativity and imagination is where you eventually a no can become a yes. Things are possible.
And thinking outside of the box, thinking outside of something linear, trying to look for a solution to a problem in a different way, or thinking about another way to do XYZ, that comes from not being just stuck in the same place all the time, being inspired by other people. Maybe it's a conversation you overheard, or it's a problem you encountered that you didn't really think was a problem. And now you're like, I see other people are having this problem. That's what I love about being a travel writer is I have ideas about things I want to write about. And then someone will come to me and say, I really don't like it when blah, 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 or I really can't afford to do this. And I'm like, well, and then all of a sudden I'm like, let me make it my mission to figure out how you can do this affordably. And then I end up writing about it and helping other people. And that's really what I love, is being able to help other people enjoy traveling with their families. Cause I think a lot of times, like you're saying, we're fighting, we're arguing, our country is we're all yelling at each other. And it's like, why don't we go yell, but yell for fun?
Yeah.
Let's get to the top of a really tall roller coaster and scream really loud, but not because we're angry, just because we're having fun.
Yeah, yeah, for excitement, yeah, adrenaline rush, and because it reminds us that, hey, yes, we're all alive, we're all in this together. It's a good thing. And talking about travel writing, what led you to the world of travel writing?
My kids.
Hey,
I
cool.
started out writing, very much was a quote unquote mommy blogger from back in the early 2010s. I
Cool.
thought I wanted to have a mommy blog because I had a friend that had one and she was hilarious. I am not hilarious. The storytelling I do is more helpful in nature. I don't have the knack for telling, like, I'm not ever going to pen a memoir because I just don't think people would find me that interesting. But I thought that's what I wanted to do because that's what I saw my friend doing. And she was also very good at like doing crafts with her kids and baking with her kids. So I was kind of trying to do the same things before I realized that's not really something that I love. What I love is writing about going on trips with my kids and sharing photos of us, getting our faces painted at Disney World, or their first time riding a roller coaster or something like that. And I started to get a lot better responses when I would write travel style articles. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. And I really started focusing on helping people through travel writing and
Ah,
writing articles that would help families plan their trips and just to show people that, like, yes, you can travel with kids when they're really young and it can be fun. It doesn't have to be a slog fest or just oh, this is just a thing that we're going to get through. No, enjoy your trip. You don't have to just get through it. You can absolutely have a good time. And here's how.
yeah, that's awesome. Exactly. Exactly. And let them be part of the process of planning too. I mean,
Hmm.
like, here's the trip budget, here's your budget, and let's plan it so everyone gets what they want, makes those decisions together. Are you going to, I was just going to say, are you going to the conference for IFTWA?
I haven't made plans for it just yet. It
Okay.
is in the middle of my girls' marching band season. So I've got to try to figure out how. So fall is a very hard time for me to travel just because we have so many activities on our calendar. So I've just got to look at the calendar and see what I can do about that. I would love
Yeah.
to. It'd be my first one.
Oh, that's cool. Because I was thinking Lafayette, Louisiana, it's the happiest city in America. And
I know, I know.
they're very family
That's one
friendly.
place in Louisiana that I haven't been.
Ah, well, then you have to go.
Then I have to go.
Yeah, it's not far from you. You're,
Nope, it's not. It really isn't.
yeah,
New Orleans is about 4.5 hours, maybe 5, depending
yeah,
on traffic.
that's nothing.
No, it isn't.
I'm always like, people are like, oh, it's going to be like 30 something hours across the country. I'm like, yeah, so,
It's
you
fine.
can see things along the way.
Orlando is 9 hours from where I live, and we do that all the time. So
Exactly.
5 hours is nothing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You get there, have dinner, then have a cool day, Well, no, a warm day, but like a fun
Yeah,
day, we
right.
should say. But before you go, because you've written a book, on Alabama, I think that's so
Hmm.
cool too. So everyone, Perfect Day, Alabama. What would you say comes to mind, just at the top of your mind when you think of family friendly Alabama?
Well, we have really great beaches, and I'm always surprised that people skip right over Alabama and go straight to Florida. Florida's beaches are great, but they are usually crowded because that's what people know about Florida. If they're not going to go to the theme parks in Orlando, they're going to the beach. We have two really beautiful beach towns, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach,
Mm,
and they are just phenomenal because they are not overcrowded. Our sand is lovely, and our state participates in a Leave No Trace initiative. So when you get up in the mornings, there will be nothing on the beaches. People are not allowed to leave tents and coolers and things like that. Everything you take out to the beach has to be gone by sunset. And it's just a really nice area of our state. I also think we have a lot of great historical museums, roadside attractions, that sort of thing, peppered throughout the state because we are a major part of the Civil Rights Trail. And I think the way that it's presented in Montgomery and Birmingham, where I live, and Huntsville, and some of the other more
Selma.
northern cities, Selma, yes, Anniston, where the Freedom
Mm,
Riders movement was. There's just lots of things. I think the state is really understanding that there's a way to recognize that part of our past without, like, you need to acknowledge it. You need to acknowledge that we were part of a past of
yeah.
having racism and things like that. And then how do we move forward from that? And how do we honor the legacy of people who fought for the right to vote, the right to, own property, all that sort of stuff. Like, we need to acknowledge those things. And we have a lot of potential for growth in those areas. And I think they're doing a really good job throughout the state of recognizing that people want to learn. And,
Mhm.
they always say, what's that old adage that, like, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it, kind of a thing. So I
Exactly,
think we're
exactly.
learning that we need to acknowledge our history and be honest about it and be honest about where we are moving forward, because I love that I would consider Alabama a really foodie state. We have a
Mhm.
lot of experimental restaurants and chefs that come here and try out their big ideas before they move on to, the Houstons or the Atlantas or the Nashvilles to open a restaurant, but they always come to Birmingham, especially, and give their restaurants a try, which is really great. And it's great for us because then we get to try all sorts of different foods before
I'm all for that.
they leave. And then sometimes they stay. Sometimes they open restaurants here, and it's great. We have a lot of good food choices in Birmingham.
I love Alabama. And, also, I think you're really right about the history because if you don't acknowledge it, it just lingers there like the elephant in the room.
Hmm.
And this opens up conversation. And
Hmm.
acknowledgement is a huge part of apologizing
Hmm.
and letting, people know that, hey, we know what happened. We're not ignoring that fact.
Hmm.
And I think it's a great thing when you have these kinds of places to go with kids, so that conversation is there and done in a way where here's the facts, and I think our park systems do such a good job at that, of
Yes.
really just interpreting things that may be hard even as parents to explain, right? And it gives teachers tools. It's that, we're going back to those trips with kids, and go, on a day trip or an outing. It's so cool to be able to go, here, this is what happened, but how do we move forward? How do we not be like that again?
Right.
And it's, I kind of look at our world as we're going through this evolution of society, I mean, humankind. And hopefully we can start going towards the humankind part, the
Right.
kindness part,
Right.
and I think
Exactly.
travel helps us with the kind part. And the more we have families travel and go to these sites and the theme parks and all of it, it's well-rounded. Your kids become well-rounded from these experiences, and tasting different foods means, hey, you may eat a purple carrot now
Hmm.
that you weren't going to eat before, because now it's like,
Huh.
ooh, this is fun, so
Yes.
I love that you're doing that. I do want to say that your beaches are beautiful. Closing, you have some beautiful wildlife areas as well. National
Hmm.
Wildlife Refuge right outside Birmingham that we go to, and the name has escaped me, but you have these cranes that come in during
Is
migration.
it? I think it's Wheeler.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
Absolutely love it, and he takes you all over.
Hmm.
We've been there. We've been through some lakes. Also, anyway, Chiha.
Yes, I just went there a couple of
No
weekends
way.
ago. Yes, I had actually, it's funny, when you live in a state or a city, sometimes you don't play tourist. You don't go to the things that normally would draw people to it. And I had been hearing about Cheehaw. I actually put it in my book because it's the highest point in the state of Alabama. And I'd not been. Me and some girlfriends decided to go glamping and try out their glamping tents up there. And we had a really good time. It
Wow,
is a beautiful area up there.
it
And
is
you just wouldn't
gorgeous.
know it unless you drove out there to it. It's just one of those things you have to really decide you're going to go do it and then go do it.
That's so funny. We have some friends, they're musicians and in the restaurant world too. The Joiners, they have a band that started in Nashville, but I think her family's from Birmingham. They live in Birmingham. Taylor and Rachel Joyner, everyone check them out I think on Bandcamp, The Joiners. And he was on our show again a few years ago, and he's like, you have to go to Cheehaw. You cannot drive through
Hmm.
Alabama without going to Cheehaw. Lo and behold, we were in Peachtree City, and then find out some of his family history goes to Peachtree City in Georgia. And we were driving, and it was winter, so there were icicles going on our way in. And it was a mountain pass, and they
Uh-huh.
were doing some burning, and so it was still beautiful. But it was winter, and I'm like, oh, I can see what this is like. And it's still, when you have all the trees without leaves at that time of year, you see more birds too. But
Hmm.
it was gorgeous. The water was blue, blue, blue. And I was just like, we have to come back through here. And you've got another wildlife refuge that we keep stopping at. Oh boy. Yeah, Alabama's cool. And I will say this, because we travel full time. We document parks and public lands and do all that kind of stuff. One of the things I want to say about Alabama, and I talk about this on every show I can possibly do, is that you have the best rest areas in the country. You do. The
Okay.
rest stops, yeah. Kentucky's almost, there are certain states that understand road tripping, and Alabama has the best exhibits. Like in Huntsville, just outside Huntsville, they have like rocket things, and some of them
Hmm.
have war memorials. And you learn about Alabama when you stop. And they have the
Okay.
gazebos. It's just, you always know it's clean and well done. And there's always cats in Alabama rest areas. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm sure people feed them, so they
They
just stick
do. And some
around.
say do not feed them, but we've seen some of them in Texas too. But
Hmm.
yeah, Alabama, it is. I think people who haven't gone there, sometimes please just stop listening to the news and actually go.
Right.
That's all I want
That's
to say.
exactly how I feel about it. I feel
Yeah.
like that about a lot of the states in the South. You get a bad rap for our past, you get a bad rap for being backwards or marrying our cousins or all sorts of things. And it's like, no, if you actually came and spent some time here, you would realize that things are not the way they're painted on. And I always tell people that about like places like New York. I'm like, New York is not as bad as people think it is. People always want to paint New Yorkers, especially New York City New Yorkers, in a bad light. They're so rude. I've never encountered a rude New Yorker. Maybe I've just been fortunate, but anytime I've been lost or needed directions to which subway am I supposed to get on because I don't know how to navigate the subway, they're always helpful. So I feel like it's the same about the South. It's just we really do have a lot of Southern hospitality down here. If you can get past maybe preconceived notions or prejudices that you may have formed from whatever you've been exposed to, come visit us and we'll show you a different time.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I think we went overtime, didn't we? And we don't
You
care.
probably did.
We don't care.
But thank you, Lisa.
I want everyone to go to your website, ontheroadwithsarah.com, and the links are in the episode notes, and we're going to put a page up. She has so many stories to help you plan your next theme park adventure, stories from Universal Orlando, Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and Dollywood. I want to go to Dollywood because I love Dolly Parton. She's awesome.
She's a fantastic human being, yes. You need to go to Dollywood.
Yeah, her and Betty White get to be at the top of the list. They do.
Absolutely.
They are. And what she does for literature and getting books out to kids and places, I want to go to. I was there, was it February this year? We were in Pigeon Forge. We didn't know we were going to go there. And we drove by the entrance and I'm like, wah. I want to go. We will go. But everyone, we've got all the links there, so check it out so you can help get your next theme park adventure with you, your family, your friends. Go have a good time. Thank you so much, Sarah. And oh yes, everyone, IFTWA, the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association, go to IFWTWA.org. And I also say use the hashtag IFTWA on Instagram and social media because you'll see all these wonderful stories from travel writers telling, they'll take you across the country and around the world. So really good stuff there. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show featuring members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We encourage you to visit their website. We say IFTWA, which is IFWTWA.org. You can also follow us at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels, everyone.